What's happening, everybody, and how the hell might y'all be making out today, for Christ's sake? Today's guest on the Crash Bang Boom podcast is drummer Ryan Leger, formerly of Every Time I Die and 100 Suns. And he's also worked with the likes of Norma Jean and Dead and Divine, to name a few, and more recently went down to South America with Hostilities. Ryan and I talk about the dynamics of touring bands, leaning towards studio drumming lately, the Hostilities run, and a new drumming course he's been working on, as well as no shortage of ADD ping-ponging type conversations, if you know what I mean. Hope y'all dig it. In any case, today's episode is sponsored by oneuploops.com. Drummer, producer, and more Carson Gant and his team spent an incredible amount of time recording over 430,000 shaker, tambourine, and hi-hat loops at every possible tempo in multiple feels with incredible mics and outboard gear for you to pick and choose. It's organized for you to find exactly what you need with just a few clicks, and everything feels and sounds incredible. You can sign up for free to check it out and gain full access to all 430,000 loops starting at just $6 a month. No download limits, whatever you want, whenever you want. New loops, one-shots, and drum breaks are being added weekly. Definitely a great addition to the arsenal of any drummer and or producer, and I can vouch for it, having used it. Check it out. It's oneuploops.com. Crash Bang Boom podcast can be found where all podcasts are found. If you like what you hear, please check out any of the previous 270-plus episodes, and double high fives if you can give me a like, a subscription, and or a positive review if you haven't already. All right, here we go. Without further ado, Ryan Leger, a.k.a. Legs. Crash Bang Boom!
Crowds go mad with joy.
All right, I'm here with Ryan Leger. I believe I pronounced it correctly this time.
Yes.
I got a little bit of French from the New Orleans side as well, so I can kind of roll with those sounds, you know. Man, how the hell are you, dude?
I'm good, man. And that's probably the most accurate we should just do the podcast based on how to pronounce my last name at this point.
That's fair enough.
that alone has got a story in its own development. But anyway, yeah, I'm good, man. Busy. A lot of years of bad busy or building, and kind of a year from 40 now, and seeing the bigger picture and taking care of things so I don't have to worry about things down the road. So it's been a big growth period, and it's kind of all coming full circle right now. So I've just been like, it's nice to be good busy, not stressful busy, or
Of course. Nice, dude. The last time we spoke, you mentioned COVID. Talk about a completely different world. I didn't realize it until I looked back when we originally did that interview and I released it, but it was over 6 years ago, and we did it down in the basement of St. Vitus when you were on tour with 100 Suns with Corey from Norma Jean. And what I primarily recall was that we talked about trying to let like a whole image download of Kate Winslet's boobs with early dial-up connections. Yeah. And you told me what a Zamboni was. I was like, a Zamboni? Who's that fucking Italian guy? And you were like, no, it's this whole hockey cleaning thing. I was like, what? And then we talked about
fish. That's a full career. That's like, that should be our prime minister, is the Zamboni guys.
Right.
Keep the legacy of hockey running in our streets. And
yeah,
we've come a long way since dial-up internet, trying to explore your sexuality with
you think?
Maybe we've come a little too far.
Maybe a little too far.
Some kids could probably use an old printer and the fucking dial-up connection to tame their libidos and fuck.
I feel like you had kids 6 years ago. Did you?
Yeah, my oldest, Ruka, she's 15.
Wow.
And then following her is Lila, she's 11.
Gotcha.
And then previous to that, Stella's almost 3, but I have a stepdaughter now who's 12, but I have a stepson who's 7. So like,
damn,
busy, man. And it's, it just again enforces a lot of the family values and future is for family, not myself kind of thing that I've been rolling with really since my first daughter was born anyway. I mean,
right.
I didn't care about much, including myself, other than drums. And, you kind of start seeing the benefits of just, doing it for someone else and not yourself too. And like, even now, like we can get to it later or another time, but like getting into the jewelry business and stuff, like I got that on the go. Like there's like a drum instructional that is like my, almost my holy grail. I'd like to leave this earth with nothing other than this in place. So it's just like,
nice.
How do I get digital things in place so that my kids are making money when I'm gone? And, a lot of people are chasing this, getting on a stage in a sold out arena, or like, getting on the cover of Rolling Stone, or even for a drummer, like little things like, wanting to be in Modern Drummer or this, that, and the other. It's like, you missed a lot of things back home. First off, family, friends, a lot of experiences and things like that to get there. And then it's like, well, what's the plan now? And a lot of people just try and roll with it and, think their one accomplishment is going to keep them at that status. But like at the same time, like you can find your way into a sold out arena a million and one ways, but that doesn't feed you full time. That doesn't feed your family in the future. It's like, there's so many different dynamics to being in a successful band, let alone like I chose the route of session drummer all these years. I've always been independent. I've never really flown any flag with anybody. And like, looking back now, it's people asking for advice or people trying to give me advice. And it's just like, we're trying to build a lifestyle here where, like I was saying, I could be home when my kids are sick, or like, I can do art full time, whether it's music or jewelry or whatever other crazy endeavors pop up.
So it sounds like the grind of touring between both finances, family life, friends, and everything else, it starts to just get hard to keep the home life together, no?
That was the hardest part, talking about getting every time you get a chance to tour, living in Toronto in my early 20s. You can't just start touring. Like, you got to get an offer, and that doesn't mean you're doing it worldwide, but it's like, say goodbye to your job.
Right.
And your bills don't disappear. So it's like, if you moved out of your parents' house, you kind of fucked yourself there. A lot of people like, kind of blame it on kids now. And it's just like, maybe now's not the time at 40 to start something new or think you're going to make it in a fucking fresh start with your high school buddies. But it's like, there was a lot of steps that included hustling and networking. And like, a lot of it didn't include playing music. And it's just like, a lot of that's coming full circle with the jewelry business and like these other things too, like, 360 on some relationships with people that are furthering things. And it's just like, a lot of these ideas I've had now, like, wouldn't have taken place had I not only stepped back from touring, or like, a few times I took a step back just to be there for my kids or my family, but it's like, man, music, and especially making money off of it and traveling, doing it too. It's not just this ebb and flow straight line,
Right.
like,
Sure. Oh my God. Definitely not.
Like, I made a huge post when I came back with Norma Jean, and like, I walked away from touring. I never walked away from music. And it's just like funny for like high school people to just think of me as like this metal drummer. And it's weird that I post like, hip hop stuff or some jazz shit and stuff. And it's just like, that's like such a small window into a career that started with like a ska band and then pop singers and Canadian Idols and like all kinds of crazy shit to get to like, the US to see me playing with ETID. And they're kind of like, ETID was at a level of touring and a level of making music that was like the next step for me. And like, friends were huge fans of them. I knew, a good chunk of their songs just because of their popularity and stuff. But it's like, this was like just my first, my first kind of foot in with a US band. Although like, it's funny, we're going on, just to kind of give people a broader picture, like, we're going out on Warped Tour for the first time. We're like, we're heading to LA where like a lot of ETID's like management and labels and connects and like, 18 Visions and all those old fucking Warped fucking, post-hardcore bands are out that fucking area and shit. And like, here I'm rolling around, I'm like slapping them all up. And the guys are like, especially their manager, Biggie's like, how the fuck do you know all these dudes? And I was like, man, I'm like, literally before ETID, I was like out with Dead and Divine, but we were touring with like Emarosa and like Lower Definition. So Tino from Of Mice, and then like Take the Crown. So we had like Bo from Bless the Fall. It's just like, man, I was putting in fucking work, dude. Like, my 15-year-old was born on tour with Dead and Divine. And it's like, that was a small window. I took a year or two off in between that, and then ETID happened. And that's just the next step in building this career where, I can jump from, my first international tour with a Canadian band to then taking a break and then jumping back. And, ETID's around the corner.
Well, let me ask you this. It's funny that you mentioned ETID. Obviously, you would. That's how I, originally found out about you. I guess now it's crazy, like what happened with that band, with the last record that they put out. You mentioned Goose. I've also interviewed him, and I also interviewed Daniel. So that's been 3 of y'all that have been involved with Every Time I Die and Norma Jean, which is pretty crazy.
I'd love to either have all of us in a room or at least all of us in some sort of Zoom meeting.
Uh-huh.
Because like, there's shit I would love to ask fucking any of them, and I'm sure it's vice versa. And like,
Yeah.
You know, I'd love to see us fucking have videos of us playing each other's songs and shit, and like,
Yeah.
you know, man, I can't believe you did this, or this fill was so hard, or, you know, like
Yeah.
this cramped my fucking hand, we couldn't play it, or like, you know, there's some crazy shit, and it's like Goose keeps up on some shit in some air, and then it's like Daniel's got this fucking feel, and it's just like,
Right.
you know, and the Rap Boys, you know, he's the original dude sitting on the throne.
Every Time I Die drummer. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's just such a solid rock staple. Like I would have him on a million fucking recordings in the studio, but those guys wanted double kicks. It wasn't me. I took a lot of fucking flack for that. But then, you know, Enter Daniel with some killer kick work on like the next record.
Totally.
You know, out of all the dudes I had to watch replay some of the stuff that I had done, like the neck break fucking skate punk stuff and that, like
Yeah.
Goose is fucking on it, man. He posted
he
a video
was.
of that fucking
Yeah.
and I'm like watching it. I'm like, all right. I'm like, I want him to fumble, right? Because I remember how hard I was fucking sweating. I'm like, dude, he fucking pulled it off.
That's awesome.
You don't just get that shit for free. And it's like, you know, that's like years and years of, you know, being in Cornwall, Ontario. And it's like, you're either a Pantera head or you're a fucking punk rocker. So it's like,
right.
If I wasn't a massive dance hall reggae fan, I wouldn't have got that first touring gig.
Mm-hmm.
I understood there was so many skate punk parts and nobody in the area could fucking get their single foot to click,
right?
Let alone keep the hi-hats at 16ths the whole time. And it was just like, immediately it was such full circle, even just the work I put in from like, you know, the time I was like 12 or 13, had a drum kit till, you know, I was literally 18 out of high school. I started touring and I haven't looked back. Like I'm just back home in Cornwall now.
Yeah.
Almost at the, you know, I'm 40 in March and I just like, I settled down with my wife in Cornwall for a little bit here. And like, dude, I've been gone. I moved out of my parents at 18, started touring, and I just kind of been, you know, pecking away at it for,
right.
Didn't realize what was 20 years.
Totally. I don't know if you have much to say about it, but given the like public nature that of the what like happened with ETID, were you surprised at all?
Not at all. I mean, and that being said, it's like I'm not going to go, you know, throwing stories or names around, but it's just like you got to understand. My job has been to not only fill in somebody's shoes, whether it's in the studio or a one-off or a whatever, or, you know, I'm jumping from a pop singer tour to a fucking death metal fucking show to 30 kids the next fucking day. It's like, I fucking did it all. But at the end of the day, you're forgetting that I haven't done any of it with my best friends.
Right.
They struck when the iron was fucking hot, the fucking Trustkill days, the fucking Hellfest days. It's like they deserve everything they've ever had.
Yeah.
But like there's a walking into a group of guys like ETID and just any band, Norma Jean, Dead and Divine.
Of course.
You know, I've had harder time with band settings than, you know, pop singers, because typically, you know, a lot of the dynamic and clerical stuff's in place for the pop world already.
Right.
So these are 4 or 5 guys that had every fucking history that you have with your best friend, from like cracking an egg on someone's head to fucking ending up in prison. It's like there's a fucking history here.
Yeah, totally.
Between 4 families
and brothers at that. Then there's like literally family dynamic.
And they're also, you know, there's no singular leader in that group either. It's just like ETID isn't ETID without all 3 of them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
As an outsider, like I can answer that question for ETID, like I can answer that question for, you know, why Dead and Divine might have broke up, or why, you know, like original Norma Jean guys aren't still around. I need to consider, are you up to standard to fucking play it?
Of course, first, yeah.
Up to a standard where you've had experience where like not only touring, but like, again, you're not touring with your best friends where you can start throwing your socks in the corner and leave your pizza scraps everywhere. Like you need to move like you've been in prison, and you know, you got small areas, you're in and out of places fast, you're getting shift fucking cells every day.
Right.
There's a lot of housework that comes with being on tour. There's a lot of mental health that is not being taken care of, but you sacrifice that to do this job. There's a lot of physical sacrifices I've seen.
For sure.
Any one of us, from broken bones to missing funerals to having the runs on fucking stage. So like, you know, and you'll get ex-spouses and old friends or enemies or whatnot. You know, how was your vacation, or how was your holiday? And you're like, bitch, you can't get through 2 days of fucking clerical work with a sore throat, let alone, you know, you may have a broken bone in fucking Germany. And you have, you know, what are you going to tell the rest of the guys? Because the rest of the guys have also missed funerals and fucking thrown up on themselves, and like even best friends fucking swing on each other.
Yeah.
You got an option now. It's just like, do we segregate ourselves at home, do we segregate ourselves on tour? And then, it's just like you kind of get into this, high school dynamics with a lot of things where like
Sure.
maybe you're hiding out with another band, or, maybe it's just, it's a fucking business at the end of the day. And it's like, if I can run my business and I drink after hours, or, Andy runs his without it, or, Keith runs his business, he drinks at doors. And this, like, like we are all professionals in our own right. But at the same time, like none of us are the main attraction. And it's just like, it's a very fragile thing, a band that isn't run by, a singer songwriter. Everyone in some moment of time thinks they're more valuable than the other. But at the same time, like you got 20, fucking 30, 40 years of animosity through friendships in high school. And, like, you don't fucking know if one of the dudes fucked the other guy's girlfriend in the 10th grade, and that's just like, right. As funny as it is, it's just like, that's not what they're going to hand you when you walk in the door as a session musician. Like, hey, by the way, this guy's got a drinking problem. This guy has a fucking sexual assault charge. This guy has it. Like, you don't, and even then it's like, sometimes you get a job at Burger King and you get that told to you on the first day willingly by people.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I walk into things and I feel like I fix them for people on a musical standpoint and in like a fucking mental health Dr. Phil standpoint. Cause sometimes a lot of bands just needed, that third party to fucking, maybe it's noodles with Andy and it's shots with Keith and then it's food with Mitch. Like, it's just like, there's been, I've had to, regardless, be very neutral party with every band that I've been in. And, and if I do walk away, it's typically, a financial issue, or it's, you've gotten in too tight and you're now arguing with the artist.
Yeah.
And then imagine if I'm a permanent structure in that, it's like, okay, this is clearly had its rocky roads over the years and stuff. But then now too, like we're getting to the age, like what's the next step? And it's like, if this guy wants to go left or this guy wants to go right, you need to make sure that guy in stage left's willing to tour the next 6 months to make enough money to pay for guy in the stage right's fucking, it's like there's a lot of fucking dynamics there.
So in addition to being a hired gun of sorts and navigating the previous history of the band, it all gets complicated. So I can see where leaning towards studio work would be beneficial in more ways than one, right?
Touring and merch sales are your biggest source of income as a band. Like I'm starting to think, these things aren't paying and feeding my family when I'm gone. So it's just like, that's what I've been working on. And like, this Tony Hawk, Trent Reznor thing was a fucking good move.
What was that?
I just low key put that out with, there's a good buddy of mine. He runs a channel called Mikey and his Uke. He did the No Effects cover with us too. He just runs all these like old punk songs and stuff like that. And like every now and then he'll put a cast together to do some crazy covers. But we just did, a Wish cover, and it's myself on drums. It's Ben from Dillinger on guitar. He's like playing in a pig pen on his farm.
Nice.
And there's my friend Kat who originally was my homegirl from Sky Sweetnam's band. She went on to play keys for Pink, so like she's in it, and then bass player from the Bronx in it.
Oh, nice.
And then we got, by the end of the day, like we're working on this thing for like a year or two, and like Mikey's like, just wait, man. Like there's something big's happening. Like, I know it was another memorial for a friend of mine too. And he's just like, something crazy is about to happen. And the next thing you know, he sends me like a still shot. It's like Tony Hawk's not only skating around Cali, he's singing the song. He's the one singing Wish. There's like Trent Reznor coming out of some like fucking dumpsters basically. And like Tony almost knocks him over and he kind of fucking flips him off and shit. And it's just like, it's fucking huge, man. But I always downplay everything because it's like, it was either 2 years in the making or it's like off to the next thing. By the time this was released, like I'd been off to things 2 years beyond that. So it's just like,
What's the name of the video or the track?
I think if you just Googled like Tony Hawk Wish cover, like it would come up right away. And then like there was another one I did with Les and Jake singer, No Use for a Name bass player, Belvedere singer and guitar player. But like, between that and then like, 100 Suns hitting 1 million streams like 6 years ago when we last spoke, and just like a lot of radio play on that. And then just like, enter this Hostilities thing. And that actually started with me finding a singer for a solo project I'm doing.
Oh, so let's touch a little on the Hostilities connection or the tour you recently did that took you down to South America and all that jazz. I mean, What was it like getting back to performing from maybe focusing more on the studio side of work and power the gigs?
You know, I forget that in the whole anti-COVID, anti-touring stance I've kind of been taking, that like, you know, in getting excited to travel and, you know, rip some unknown destinations and hit some areas where people are, you know, afraid to go play or afraid to get dirty. And like, that's what I miss. I don't miss these people, you know, the thousands of people or the hundreds of people or the tens of thousands of people like that we've played to. It's like, I miss the energy. I miss that sweaty wall, you know, the St. Vitus sweaty,
Yeah.
you know, everyone's vibing. Not everyone's there just for music, you know, everyone's there to fucking release a bunch of shit. And it's like, you know, it was what, you know, a musician or someone that would typically bitch about, you know, oh, our worst show, you know, had 20 kids at it. But it's like, you know, we spent the whole day in the lobby, like smoking weed with all these kids, and then like not underage kids. I just, you know, I'm almost 40 now. So like,
Right.
you know, I'm talking like fucking 20 to 30-year-old kids and shit. And like, we're chilling all day, man. They're getting to fucking know everybody, and they're just like losing it on the singer. Like, she's fucking got such great fashion and like such a killer fucking performer that like she's just like a superhero over there. But it's like, you know, they're bitching that they're apologizing, you know, sorry more people. But we're like, man, we just saturated this bitch for like 6 days in a row.
Yeah.
And like, we're in some areas where kids were like, bands don't come here, man. Like, bands don't play here. Bands, you know, they can't get fucking cabs out of here. But it's like, I can't believe you guys are fucking here. And it's like,
That's cool.
There were kids at shows too, you know. We got photos with fucking 12-year-old kids with drumsticks and like fucking taking the hardcore legacy on. And even just, you know, if they're gonna keep playing music and shit, but they're just literally like, this doesn't happen. You know, so it's kind of like enter again, like, what do I love the most about touring? It's like, it's culture, it's fucking community, it's like the fucking eating the actual food and fucking smelling the actual air and fucking, you know, it's not what, again, playing fucking arenas somewhere where there's no food around or people and you're just like, you know, blue collar, white collar touring, man. It's like, and you're building a lifestyle, you're not building a career. There's no amount of awards or like, you know, magazine covers that are going to make this stable for you. The little things, you know, I've been working on for 20 years of this career, you know, that are now, you know, fully fucking developed or ready for the next stage. And it's just like, none of it really involves playing live, you know, and it's like a lot of it involves community and giving back and teaching and knowledge and, you know, having more albums out, having more music out.
Man, I meant to mention it, but you played in an awful lot of loud bands, and you mentioned before we started rolling that you were trying to take care of your hearing, but it's a question I sometimes ask people about their hearing. But did you wear hearing protection with Every Time I Die, for instance?
No, nothing, like, at all.
Really? Holy shit, man.
For me, the foam ones were just always, it was like a feel thing and like whatnot. And then, you know, enter the inner world. And I'm getting there now. I'm using a Yamaha EAD, and I'm finding that's really helped me control my, not only my monitor mix, but like what's coming into my actual canal. So
Absolutely.
Like, if I can put my in-ears in, or, you know, I got some beats that are self-isolating. Like, if now when I sit at a drum kit and then lo and behold, you know, panicking that I didn't have time to get my electronics together for tour, I literally did, you know, full day of rehearsal with Hostilities and then 2 weeks of shows with no plugs again. So it's just like right now I'm dealing with something that I dealt with Norma Jean, which is like I have vertigo like 24 hours a day since I got home. And then the flights seem to make it worse. And then the fact that like with Norma Jean, I was flying out of Mexico City and we were at like the highest altitude, you know, they're like, this is like triple Denver altitude. And then, you know, landing in Bogota, they're like, you're going to lose your taste of, you know, your sense of taste when you get there. The altitude's so high. And so just, you know, kind of enter issues I've already had with tinnitus. And like, I have damage in my left ear from either monitor mix or even when I had click, you know, I'd have one in, one out. And, you know, I sit down now, and if it's not, you know, if I'm going to stubbornly run into a 2-week tour and fuck up wearing earplugs, well, at least at home now, it's like, you know, I'm running the EAD and I'm picking the volume of the kick and the overheads. And like,
damn,
a lot of it too was not realizing that all I wanted these years was just overheads too, if that helps anyone listening. Like, you know, I need the guitars louder. And it's like, well, fuck, well, now I can't hear the toms. Like, well, you know, you tell a monitor guy you want toms or a little more cymbal, they think you're fucking crazy. But it's like, everyone keeps stacking, louder kick. Now I can't hear the bass, louder bass.
Right.
The EAD, I don't know how familiar you are with it, and a lot of drummers listening have probably possibly used it, but like, it's essentially just a massive trigger for your kick drum. So it's picking up your kick information, and then it's got two, a left and right stereo system off the top of it, which is like a first of its kind. So like, although a big nasty ride kind of fucking gets in the way if you're on like a one tom setup kind of kit, but like, if you had a ride out of the way, it's like, I'm forgetting that like sometimes it's just, you don't even want the click of the kick. It's just the low end you want, but you're not hearing anything because the guitars are too sharp. And it's like, all you can do is start at ground zero, which is like, pulling in some overhead mics are going to get you stage left guitar, stage right guitar. They're going to get you some vocals. They're going to get you a full mix of your drums, essentially.
Right.
You have a couple mics overhead above your cymbals. It's like, I would start my mix there. It's like, you get a little bit of kick to feel it in your ass. Snare, man, I don't even fucking put snare in my monitor. I don't need it. It's too fucking loud.
No, I hear you.
Vocals, I don't put in my monitor. I get them from the vocalist. So it's like my perfect like stereo mix is like just enough vocals from the monitor, the vocals in the front. You're getting a bit of the amps left to right. So it's like, instead of competing with the amps, like I bring in a little bit of overhead. So I'm getting a little bit of amps, a little bit of tom, a little bit of cymbals. You get the bell cymbal a little crisp. And then it's like, then maybe if I need some kick or a bit of snare, I'll add it in. But it's like, even just that, not having everything fucking blasting. Like I've had vertigo and almost fell off my drum stool, like at least, a handful of times where I've lost count or lost where we are in the songs because I've completely just almost dropped to the ground because, you turn your head left or right the wrong way or fucking headbang a certain way and, your canal hits the fucking and boom. Like,
Jesus.
I remember being at the Cool House one time in Toronto, like watching a band play, and I was just, wrong ear to the wrong fucking house speaker, and it's just something fucking hits, and I'm just like, woo, like almost down to the ground.
Damn, dude, that is crazy town. Jesus. Well, hopefully you can find some solutions to that. But aside from the crazy vertigo story, I did definitely want to talk to you about this drum instructional course you've been working on. So tell me a little bit about that, man.
After the last 5 years I started back to ground zero with drums. And I was just like, because of my, physical state I was in, mental state with the, the two different, the fibro and ADHD diagnoses and the fucking, all the pills I've been up and down on and shit. But like, the instructional is like, I could now explain to you in probably under an hour for 3 categories, like from hands to feet to like putting it all together, 3 chapters in under an hour. I could like, and it's not what you're looking for. It's not these paradiddle exercises. It's not 16 note linear gospel fills. It's not, this trick fucking wrist flick that it's like literally bare fucking bones to the fucking basics, like 3 movements for my hands, 3 movements for my feet. None of them involve fingers or any sort of tendons that you're like, wrecking or fucking frying or burning or like, I watch all these speed metal kids whipping their fingers and it's just like, dude, you're going to be fucked.
Really?
Like, I know what it feels like to play 200, 225 BPM with my fingers. And it's like, there's some really awkward shit and feelings and sensations you get from just using nerve endings. Would you believe me if I told you with my right hand, I can hit 300 BPM with just my wrist?
That's hard to believe.
I can't with my left. I'm close, but I could almost, at the risk of injuring myself, fucking stone cold hit 300 BPM with my right hand, and it's all wrist.
Huh. You
have such a huge fucking hinge on your wrist. And all that's trumping you is you've never had to make it fucking flap that fast. But it's like, even in, when I go back study and read, study the finger techniques and open and close and fucking, all these touch taps and fucking whatever the fuck people are doing now. And it's just like, every time I see someone do more than one stroke, it's like a nerve ending or it's a finger or it's like the constricted movement. Swing your wrist, dude. If you can swing a bucket around your fucking head 900 times, like, my youngest Stella, she picks up sticks and she hits a floor tom harder than most professionals.
Yeah.
And it's just the height of the stick and it's the flick of the wrist. And it's just, it's very, very basic primal dynamics. And it's like, same with the feet. It's like, it's not what I thought it was. It's not the course I thought it was going to be. It's not the magic bag of fucking tricks I thought it was going to be, or you're anticipating. It's literally like 3 movements again. Like, I'll take you from 100 to 150 in one movement, from 150 to fucking 200 in the other. And then I'll take you from 200 to give you the tools to get to 300 with the third movement. And like, that is
That's
fucking
awesome.
it.
Huh.
That is it. And like, same with the hands. It's all wrist. It's 3 different directions or movements. And again, I'm swinging on, 200 BPM, or I'm doing 150 with the same heights. And it's just like, that, but again, that's 5 to 10 years of really honing in on it, 20 years of doing it and playing professionally. It's like, I got drum products coming out from my own triggers to like full electronic kits and fucking all kinds of fucking crazy shit that's like coming full circle. So it's like, man, again, you don't see me on stage. It's like, just fucking chill.
Ha ha! I hear you, dude. Oh, I meant to ask you, were there any instructional videos from your past that informed you on what you're presently developing with this one?
What I want it to be, and I don't know if you've ever seen Brains DVD, Shredding
Yeah,
Reckless.
of course, yeah.
It's funny. I was like talking to my wife last night. I'm like looking at the cover of it while I got like my gold teeth in and like my old grandma leopard print fucking fur jacket on and shit. And I'm just like, damn. And it's like, I just feel like at 40 years old, I know what the brand is now. And it's like, I need to spend the next 40 years creating and then just leaving that behind. But I'm looking at the cover and it's just Brian Mantilla, one of my fucking favorite drummers, because, here a Primus fan, this motherfucker jumps on the scene and he's got the gold sparkle kit, and then he's got the jelly bean kit.
Yep.
And then he's got the fucking, just the fucking beanies, and he's got just this vibe to him that was just so me and just so everything I wanted to be. And just like, even picturing at 16, like, if Les Claypool called me at 16 years old and offered me the gig, like that would have been me, just some punk motherfucker that loves funk and R&B. And
well, speaking of Brain's instructional video, he focused on hand technique. Is there any specific form, be it hand technique or ergonomics / setup topics, etc., you'd like to focus on with your own instructional?
If you're flying double kicks and one fucking beater isn't at the same distance as the other, you're not doing it properly. There's just no school where you could tell me that, squeezing your left calf all awkward and getting half notes out, or sometimes it's people's right foot.
Right.
They're so used to squeezing or putting all their weight on the right foot that, like, you got this one beater that's kicking an inch away from the head, and then the left one's got like 7 inches on it. It's like, tell me that dude's a professional.
I mean, but don't people use triggers sometimes in that instance to maybe create a more solidified sound despite the inconsistencies?
Well, then enter a whole other, podcast at some point in time, and I'm going to be selling my own triggers at some point. But again, that comes from a guy that's used triggers to build pop kits and to go with the samples, or to, I've had to pull full samples from full records and spread it across pads or click tracks and shit like that.
Yeah.
It's the way my brain works. Like, I can think these things up like a million and one ways, but I have to either like join up with someone that's clerical or like, lock in with someone that's, a videographer or something. But I think for me right now, the next steps are option 1 is like 3 students, and it would be along the lines of like, has never ever played before, like 9-10 years old kind of deal. I'd like to see myself, like 17-year-old kid that's like able to be like, ripping Pantera and Avenged and stuff. And, I'd like to take someone like you that's been playing for fucking 20-30 years, or like, I've talked to enough guys and you've probably ran enough courses or seen enough guys in and out of, from New York to Atlanta. The second option was where I would maybe offer the 3 courses first as like a Zoom or Skype type thing where, like, $150 for hands, $150 for feet. Cause a lot of these full courses are going up. I paid them. I pay $300 for a fucking drum course these days, and it's worth it.
Right.
The last 5 years of my drumming have launched like tenfold. The years that no one's seeing me fucking on stage, I'm like been honing in on every fucking thing I possibly can. Like, what's weak, let's fucking kill it. All right, next year. And 5 years later, if that's a year on double kick and then a year on, just groove, a year on sit and pocket again, and I'm going back and trying to condense it into this bag of tools I can use for every fucking aspect of my career.
Of the drummers that are maybe less dependent upon triggers and likely play south of 200 BPMs, who do you dig in that world?
The guys in my head were always Alex Suicide Silence and Kevin Acacia Strain, like 2 guys that have been able to, absorb enough of their records, absorb enough of their live set. I've toured with them enough times that, like, these dudes hit, and they're not cracking 225 in these speed metal fucking things, but like a lot of their shit even one of the latest releases, I heard Kevin on that fucking. I immediately jumped in the pedals and like, this is like my warm up song for the next couple of weeks, and I clocked it at 200 BPM, and it's like, this motherfucker does this without triggers, and like Alex doesn't do it, and they're like, although they're not doing 220, 225, their volume is as loud as anyone doing 170, 180. If I'm hiring somebody tomorrow for a fucking band I'm putting together, I need a guy to fucking fill in for me. I'm not looking for a guy that can pussyfoot some fucking triggers and turn the volume up.
Sure.
I want a guy that's going to fucking kill it. And then if, they're like, hey, we're 225 BPM speed metal, we'd like you to recreate. To me, you're recreating now a sound that the audience can hear decipherable between the left and right side kick.
For sure.
You shouldn't be using triggers to maximize your volume. And I also get it that, these guys that are taking it to the extreme at 300 BPM and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
That's a different conversation.
It is, yeah.
From,
sure.
275 to 300, 250 to 300, like.
A bass drum without it just goes wah.
Sure.
That's just
you
what
need
it
to add
into.
a sleeping bag into those kick drums. You need to make sure there's no crosstalk. Like, that's just a different thing. If you're asking me to validate or evaluate you as a drummer, then using triggers to fucking maximize your volume is just you're avoiding the inevitable.
I hear you, man. And those are definitely some valid points and some good thoughts to consider. Well, hills bells, Ryan. It was good talking to you, man. Thanks for the time, and we'll definitely have to stay in touch. And yeah, keep me posted as you develop this course, man. I'm really, really interested in seeing how it pans out. My dude.
Always a pleasure. Have a good day, man.
All right, everybody, that does it for this one. Hope y'all dug it, and thanks to Ryan for rapping. Super curious to see how this course of his develops. We'll catch y'all on the next one. You know how it goes. Crash, bang, boom.